So step one in this series is to take a neutral stance and just turn the pelvis along for the ride that pulls the arches into an animated position. So we are rotating belt buckle, sternum, face, all as one unit. And you'll notice as I turn left, my left arch animates, and I try to keep my left ball, the big toe, down. And when I go right, it will animate the right arch, and the right ball, my big toe, will be harder to stay down. It'll want to roll out like this. It is the arch's job to follow the pelvis, but the ball, the big toe's job to resist so we don't fall over. That's what creates the opposition needed to lift the arch in this kind of torque fashion. So again, kind of going through and finding just that rotation nice and tall, not leaning and pushing the hips out, just moving and keeping all that in place. Slowly but surely. Turn too far and you're gonna tilt the pelvis and probably feel it in the low back, so we don't want that. Step two is to take a micro step back, keep the knee over the midfoot, so we're not backed off of it and loaded back here. Pretty good and loaded in this front leg. And then we're turning the pelvis, keeping ourselves from leaning towards this wall. So we're turning within a slim cylinder. And I'm taking my hands to my hips and I'm pulling myself back into a coil. Like I'm trying to show somebody over here, my tailbone, somebody over here, my belt buckle. So keeping that knee mid-foot, left ball, the big toe down, belt buckle this way, tailbone that way, big torque through the whole leg, especially in the foot. If you're doing these right, about 15, you should kind of fry your foot on the lead leg. So from here, I'm coming in and out, keeping that knee from coming back too much. So again, knee over that midfoot so I don't do this. I'm keeping it over there so I'm nice and stable, feeling that torque through those lines. Other side, I'm gonna point my tailbone at you, knee over midfoot. This is my tighter side, harder to show you my tailbone, harder to keep my right ball, the big toe down, harder to keep my right toes relaxed. And another thing with these, you want this knee, if I had a smiley face drawn on my kneecap, it's pointed at you. As I rotate, it's gonna point this way. That's what's gonna really give me that opposition in the foot. If you hold this for a while, I do 15 reps, maybe 5 to 10 breaths, just holding it afterwards, really frying that foot. You're gonna feel your arches working, and if you don't, go back and repeat the cues until you do. Everything should be there. Nice and tall through the crown on those as well. Third is to get into a half kneeling position, 90-90, a little wider than super narrow. You don't want to be super out, super in, somewhere comfortable. This ball of the big toe stays down again, hands to that crevice of the hip. We are staying long through the spine, and as that hip comes back, I am bringing my chest down and pointing it towards you along with my belt buckle. I'm not curling down or slumping here. I'm staying chest high, even though it is coming down, I'm not letting it curl extra low. Once I get there, it should be hard to keep that ball, the big toe down, knee out, and crevice of the hips back. And I should feel a big stretch through here. And then I come back out. Inhale down. A little pause at the stretch. We'll do the other side to show you the other side. I'll give you a different angle. Again, crevice comes back. Hips are not just coiling, because then I'm more upright. They're also coming into a hinge, coming back in space. Again, this ball of the big toe is going to be my harder one to keep down. Silent toes, ball of the big toe planted, knee drifting out this way. I'm trying to show you my tailbone, stretching that right glute. Exhale, come back up. Might feel a big stretch in the hamstring, maybe some groin tissues, inner thighs. You are letting that knee come back in space. Now the fourth is to tuck that back foot, come back into your coil, elbows pretty close to this knee on the opposite side, and I'm going to stand up and come up to standing. Then I want to coil back and then come back up. Lots of difficulty balancing here. And then I alternate. Again, very hard to balance here. You feel your toes going crazy. Last but not least, that was me kind of getting into the coil lunge, or half kneeling coil, and then sending my hips back, then returning. Once we start alternating per side, these are really tough, so my voice is going to be a little shaky. So once we alternate from side to side, we won't send the hips back as much. So this is the final progression. All the other ones are still great exercises. And we coil, return, coil, return. Notice I'm not taking my hips back at the end any longer. I'm just coming down to kind of a half squat. Nice coil, return. You want that step back to initiate the coil. And you want it to be finishing as you stand up. Initiate with coil, undo on the way up. Last angle. And those should be really tough. Whichever side you're harder at balancing, spend more time with, run through the progressions, and graduate your way to the final one.